Hello there, Talkin fight fans. Thanks for joining us tonight on The Scoop. We have a very special week lined up. It started off with a bit of sad news with Leon Spinks passing away there, but we've been doing a show. I shouldn't say we, I should say he has been doing a show on the Fab Four. And tonight, the fourth of those four will be highlighted. I won't steal your thunder. Go for it, champ.
Well, hello there. Today we're going to talk about a number of that iconic 1976 Montreal Olympic Summer Games team. As an amateur, he took home gold medals in both the 76 Summer Games and the 75 Pan American Games. As a pro, he's one of the members of the Fab Four and was deemed the boxer of the 80s. He's also the first fighter to earn over $100 million in purse money.
That's incredible.
Alone. My name is Bola Ray. This is The Scoop. Born May 17, 1956 in Wilmington, North Dakota, was one Raymond Charles Leonard. Being the fifth of seven kids in the family, his early beginnings were one of a quiet, shy child who loved comic books and playing with his dog. Ray started boxing while emulating his older brother Roger, who had started boxing just a short while prior to him. And Roger would come home with these trophies, which every child wants, right? Ray suffered his first loss in 1972 at the National American Athletic Union Games at the quarterfinals in featherweight. Now, his next loss came later on that same year at the the Eastern Olympic Trials. Now, this was sort of interesting. To fight internationally, actually still to this day, you have to be 17 years of age. Ray was 16.
Right.
So he lied. Imagine that. And was able to participate. Now, he got as far as the semifinals before a controversial loss where his opponent, who won the contest the day before, could not compete the next day from the battering he got from Ray the day before, but never boxed again. There was the assistant coach of the national team that told Ray's coach, a quote, Ray's coach being Dave Jacobs, says, "Your kid is sweet like sugar." And hence, the nickname stuck. In 1975, for the record, he won the Pan American gold medal. So there you have it. Now, fast forward to 1976. Ray's on that, like I said, that iconic team. And Ray was on a tear. He had fought five guys going into the gold medal match against the Cuban. All five guys he had beaten by a score of 5-0.
Wow.
Not one fighter scored a point against him. He's up against the Cuban. The Cuban, his last five opponents, he has knocked out. This is going to be a war. This is a puncher versus boxer. Boxers should always win. Remember that. And this story played right into that. Ray beat it and battered that boy. And once again, Ray won a gold medal via 5-0 decision. Post-fight interview, Ray announces that, he's accomplished everything he's wanted to accomplish. So, yeah, he is going to drop out of boxing and further his education. He had already gotten a scholarship to University of Maryland, and he was going to be studying business administration and communications. And then, well, more importantly, post the gold medal, he was a golden boy. He was America's sweetheart. The endorsements were flooding in like no other. Like more so than every other gold medalist on that iconic team. And then, well, Juanita Wilkinson, Ray's high school girlfriend. What most people didn't know, because they kept it quiet, was in 1973, Ray had a child with Juanita, Raymond Charles Leonard Jr. And this was kept quiet. Raymond Charles Leonard Jr. lived with his mother and grandmother. And everything was going to be okay until the Olympics. Well, while Ray was in the Olympic Games, not before, not after, in the Games, Juanita decided that she is going to go after Ray for child support. And at which point in time, Ray didn't find out about this until he returned back from the Olympics and read in the Washington Star headlines, Sugar Ray Leonard named in welfare department paternity suit. Yeah, he became a sociological pariah, and his endorsement contracts went the way of the dodo. Like rats from a sinking ship, they just dried up. Yeah. To make matters even worse, his dad had been stricken with meningitis, and his mom a heart attack. So Ray then had to curb his educational endeavors and take up professional boxing so as to support the family. Now, his pro crusade started as expected. A long string of victories that had such names as Floyd Mayweather Sr., Randy Shields, Dick Eklund were all victims that he met en route to seeing the great Wilfred Benitez. November 30th, 1979. Ray steps into the ring to face off against the great one, Wilfred Benitez, for his WBC welterweight strap. Now, this was an epic fight. From a purist, I study boxing. I love boxing, but I study it. This was the quintessential. This could have been used to teach classes as to what would happen if a counterpuncher is to meet up with a counterpuncher. It was Wilfred Benitez was nothing shy of a specimen. Like in every which way, shape, or form you can imagine. He was ripped, he was strong, he was fast hands, quick reflexes, incredibly good with the slipping of punches. Ray was Wilfred 2.0. They looked identical, except Ray was just a little bit faster, a little bit taller, and a little bit longer reach. The first couple rounds came out, and Wilfred was not doing great. He was trying a lot of counterattacks and counter punches and stuff like that, or at least attempts. Ray was countering his counters and landing. At first, Ray said that he felt that this was going too easy in the first couple rounds, and then the third round comes along, and Ray actually caught him with a stiff jab and dropped him. Now it was a flash knockdown. Wilfred gets up. All is well. He brushes himself off. He goes on and survives the round. Fourth and fifth round, pretty much the same. But then all of a sudden, the sixth round, something changed. Wilfred started, first and foremost, he increased his punch combinations, increased his punch output, but then he was also increasing his jabs. And this proved to be complicated to Ray. Ray all of a sudden did not know how to get by his jab. And this proved positive for Wilfred for the next three rounds. Only to then, for what reasons I don't know, Benitez just sort of abandoned that scenario. Maybe it was fatigue. I don't know. It could have been exhausting. But then Ray started picking up the scenario. They had clashed heads in the eighth round, and when I was watching, I was like, "Is this going to play a factor?" Which, Wilfred's corner did an amazing job in stopping the bleeding, so it didn't really affect much until it reopened up in the 14th round. In the 15th round, final round, Benitez touches canvas again. With 30 seconds left in the fight, he touches canvas, gets knocked down, and he's hurt. He's not out, but he's hurt. And he gets up, makes a count. There's 20 seconds left. Ray jumps him, starts swinging for the fence. Yes, Ray was tagging him. But 9 seconds left in the fight, the ref stops the fight. Personally, I think it was a bit premature. He earned the right to finish on his feet. He put on a spectacular show. And I didn't think he was that hurt, but that's me from the outside looking in. Ray got a 15th round knockout on his record against the great Wilfred Benitez. So, okay. After making short work of Dave Boy Green, the stage was set for a matchup June 20th, 1980. The day I turned 10. He is up against the mega machismo, Roberto Duran. This was an epic fight. One for the history books, to say the least. I am going to do an episode on this next week, so stay tuned. Ray lost that contest with the 15th round decision, but immediately he enacts his rematch clause, and 5 months later, he's staring across the ring at, again, one Roberto Duran. Another epic fight which I'm doing a show on next week. Hence, I'll discuss it later. Ray then went on to defend his title another 3 times. And shortly thereafter, he runs into the man himself, Tommy the Hitman Hearns. June 12th, 1981. Sorry, wrong. September 16th, 1981. They square off. This was deemed Fight of the Year by Ring Magazine. It was not just historic; it was an epic fight. Unbeaten Tommy Hearns, WBA champion, unification fight against Ray Leonard, UBC champion. I'm doing another episode on this fight next week. We'll discuss it then. But for the record, Ray won that fight. Now, 1982, Ray defends his belt against one Bruce Finch, February 15th, 1982, and wins way of knockout. Then, out of inactivity, he has his belts dropped. Like he gets stripped of his titles, but he goes back into the ring May 11th, 1984, to face off against one Kevin Howard. Now, he won that fight via knockout, but then post-fight, he does the unimaginable. The boxing world had been talking about and wanting the fight, Ray versus Hagler. And Ray kept saying, yeah, sure, love to do it, but yeah, this, that, and the next thing, and then some. And all of a sudden, he decides to make an announcement. He's done with boxing, and he's retiring. This would have been an epic payday for Mr. Hagler. Ray is the golden boy. He's so pretty, he just shows up, and money falls from the heavens. So be it. 3 years later, Ray is sitting at ringside as Hagler is fighting John Mugambi. Now, he sitting beside Michael J. Fox. He nudges Michael J. Fox, says, I can beat him. Speaking about Marvin. Now, for the life of me, I've studied this fight probably 15 times in the past year and a half. I have no idea what he saw that was so detrimental, or how Hagler was decreasing. There's talk of Hagler wasn't as effervescent with his footwork and whatnot, which is nonsense. He fought beautifully. He outclassed a juggernaut, a counter-punching juggernaut. He outboxed him senseless. And people are going off and seeing some kind of flaw in his game. So then the fight was on. April 6th, 1987. Ray is standing and staring across the ring from Marvin Hagler, the fight of the decade. I will be doing a show on that next week. But just so as you know, it was arguably the most controversial fight in boxing history. People still talk about it today as to who really won that fight. Ray was given the 12-round decision. And what most people don't realize is the backstory. It's the backstory that really sells the show. And the backstory in this one, I still don't understand what Hagler was thinking, because he pretty much gave Ray everything. He just wanted that fight. He just wanted that fight. You then fight, Ray then fights another 6 more fights in his career. And he goes up against a couple, well, pretty much everyone that he fights is actually rather notable in the way of the Canadian kid, the golden boy, Donnie Lalonde, Terry Norris, terrible Terry Norris. But June 12th, 1989, the long-awaited rematch between him and Tommy Hearns occurs. Now, I did a show already on that fight. I put it as one of, well, it's in my series of boxing's greatest robberies. Ray got knocked down twice. Tommy dominated that fight for the majority of the fight, and then knocked him down twice in 12 rounds. There was no way Ray was anywhere remotely close to having a draw or a win. And even the one judge that gave the fight to Tommy saw it at some ridiculously slivered win, like two round win, which was nonsense. It just didn't. Nothing made sense that whole night. The 3 blind mice. They, like Hagler says, you got to take them out of the equation. And it was called a draw. Now, with that being said, during Tommy's induction into the Nevada Sports Hall of Fame, Ray was presenting him with his inductee trophy. And during this presentation, he actually makes mention that Tommy won that second fight. He won the first one via knockout. Tommy won the second one. Now, while doing color commentary for a fight in June 22nd, 1996, Ray was doing color commentary for a fight between Roberto Duran and Hector Macho Camacho. Oh, the testosterone in that ring must have been epic. Oh, my word. And, well, Hector won the fight and then does what Macho Time does and start talking and trash talking Ray and said, "Come on in, let's have some fun." And called Ray on. Ray points up to him and says, "You got a gift." All right. Well, 4 fights later, Ray decides to get in the ring March 1st, 1997, to face off against Hector Macho Camacho to deal with that whole gift-giving thing. Ray did prove to be unsuccessful with that scenario and retired for good this time. So it was It wasn't meant to be. That's it. That's all. But Ray retired with a record of 36 wins, 3 losses and a draw, so 40 fights, and yet made over $100 million. He was loved. He was marketable, and he was loved. So much giving to boxing history in such a short career by comparison to his counterparts in the Fab Four. He is by far the least weathered, had the least amount of fights. What can I say? Thank you for the memory, sir. Thank you for your contribution to boxing history. Enjoy your retirement. And with that, that's the scoop. So if you like this episode, please hit the like button, smash the subscription, flick the notification. It's your boy Bola. That's a scoop.
Quality over quantity.
Genuinely. I didn't realize that he had that little, well, it's not minuscule, but he did exceptionally well. And his boxing career professional career spanned 20 years.
Out of curiosity, did he ever stay with Juanita and raise that kid, or?
No. He did help raise a kid, but he wasn't. He's not with her. He'd been divorced, married, and I think he's still married to his second wife. Yeah.
Well, a great story. He was certainly legendary, and certainly I watched a lot of his fights after the Olympics, because I was 16 in '76, and so followed his trajectory up there through the early '80s. He was a really great fighter.
Oh, he finished the Olympics and became acquainted with Muhammad Ali and Angelo Dundee. Angelo Dundee ended up coaching him after the Olympic Games. And they gave him brilliant business advice, in that he didn't sign on with any major network. So he just fought on all of them, whenever he did. And in that day, apparently, I guess networks were really tight-knit jurisdictions, so with very little overlap. So what ends up happening is Ray was seen on all platforms, hence why his popularity went through the roof, and he was able to get the big purses. Whereas everybody else was signed to a specific network, and it was big fish in small pond scenario. Yeah.
Oh, great story. Thanks for bringing it up, and a great episode called the Fab Four that we've enjoyed this week.
Cheers.
And I'm looking forward to hearing about all these bloodbaths that ensued next week. It's going to be a good week coming up as well. Thank you.
It's going to be a great week. Yeah. Cheers.
And have yourself a good weekend.
You too.
And all of you out there, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate it.